You gave my life to me, set me free, set me free. The finest years I ever
A lot goes
lived.
on in the darkness that night that doesn't get undone by the sunrise on that day. It takes a couple days before the work of
Yeah,
that darkness is undone.
yeah. The sun rises, then it's crucifixion time, and
Yeah,
that's done in the full light. And yet, uh, while he's hanging on the cross, we have darkness for three
it goes
hours.
dark.
Yeah, and that's not in John's gospel, but this theme is irresistible throughout. I even noticed a little thing where that night that we're talking about, Peter and John always seem to be buddies. They're paralleling the mob taking Jesus away, and they get to the high priest's house uh, where the initial part of the trial is going to take place, the interrogation, and John's able to get in. I guess he's related somehow to the high priest. Peter's not. He's stuck outside the gate. John arranges for Peter to be able to get into the courtyard, and during the denial and betrayal, Peter's sitting there warming himself in the night at a fire.
Yeah.
And you think the whole idea of being freezing and warming yourself with other people around a fire is normally a comforting thing, but here it's like the worst night of his life, because it's
Yeah.
here before the sun comes up that he denies Jesus 3 times. And what struck me this morning as I was reading it is later on when Jesus is reinstating Peter, the scene is the sun coming up,
Mm.
and there's some guy waiting on the shore with a fire
Yeah.
uh, in
Yeah.
with coals, and so they warm themselves around that fire. Well, the reinstatement or the reversal of that dark night of betrayal. Now they get to now fire is redeemed again, and the
Mhm.
warmth and light of that fire with
Mhm.
Jesus. And it's almost like you wonder if Peter would not be able to enjoy nighttime fires after the betrayal ever again in his life, but now he can. And
Yeah. I think that's really profound. And there again, and I hadn't been thinking about this coming into us talking about it, but it does strike me again that there's a lag between darkness and the sunrise for Peter. Like for Peter, the resurrection doesn't even really do it complete. But he's like, I'm going fishing. And I think all indications to me are that Peter has yet, even though Jesus has resurrected, Peter has yet to experience the daylight coming because he's so stuck in the dark night of that moment of
Mhm.
betrayal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you almost wonder if he's like, okay, things big picture are made right. Again, Jesus has risen, but for
But
me,
I'm not.
yeah, I've lost my place. I thought I was in the forefront of this thing, right in the center of it, and now I'm on the fringe. And I'm glad it's happening, but it's not. It's kind of over for me personally. So let's go ahead and get into the actual portrait for today, which is John 9. A guy who has never experienced any of the things we're talking about his entire
Yeah.
life. It's assumed that his darkness is because of some kind of curse, because of someone's sin.
Yeah. So verse 1, as he went along, he being Jesus, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? In neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and then put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing.
Um, how much mud can a person make from spit? You know,
Probably just enough for a smear.
yeah.
It's not like a
Exactly.
mud bath. It's not
It's not like it's like plaster of Paris
yeah.
covering the entire eye socket. It's just a little bit of smear. It's not a very glamorous looking healing. It's just a little bit of spit and dirt.
Jesus is doing the healing. The guy's not going to heal himself, and yet there's an invitation to walk somewhere, and so
Yeah.
there's an effort involved in walking out his healing.
The overlapping of different themes. The big question on the cause of his blindness, and there's next week we're going to talk about law versus grace, the old covenant versus the new covenant. And there's a presumption that because a law was broken by his parents or by him, that this was the result of it. And Jesus doesn't seem to be applying the law in that way. That his condition has nothing to do with somebody sinning, but the law. But it just has to do with a display, a splash of light. To show God's glory and to light up his life.
Like we conflate beauty with blessing. We conflate success with blessing. All right, verse 8. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed that he was. Others said, "No, he only looks like him." But he himself insisted, "I am the man." "How then were your eyes opened?" they asked. He replied, "The man they call Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see." I love the pragmatism of this guy.
Yeah, it's not
I don't
complicated.
know. Here's how it happened.
Spit, mud, see. Yeah. And it's funny that he was unrecognizable. Like nothing changed except for his actual eyes, which I guess the eyes really are what determine what a person looks like. I guess more so than other facial features or body type. But it's funny that they don't recognize it, and he just looks different.
It seems that there's an element of like when somebody's been radically impacted by the kingdom of heaven, there's transformation that takes place, and that transformation makes them look different.
Just to have you back again, just to touch you once again.